Hey there, welcome to the Aspect Podcast Network, the home of Bending the Narrative. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button below and be the first to listen to our new episodes and other shows from the Aspect, covering topics such as Marvel, Star Wars, Game of Thrones, and more. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bending the Narrative here on the Aspect Network. I'm one of your hosts, Kate Grunquist, and joining me every week to discuss the latest and greatest in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender is Alex Batts. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited for this week's episode. So we're continuing our book 2 rewatch with the episode The Library.
And now let's continue tracking Team Avatar and Zuko's separate journeys on our handy-dandy little map here.
Which again, we don't get any Zuko in this episode.
We don't get Zuko in this episode. That's right.
Yeah. So they begin they really, at this point in the show, have gotten to the point where they're confident in just keeping with one of the storylines for a little bit really and cool. Letting that kind of play out. So yeah, we've moved a decent amount in the between last week and this week. So they've gone to the west some, kind of more into the desert, not really towards the center. Oh, they went towards the center and then go over there. Yeah. Because they go to the small little village first where they try to find they go to Misty Palms and then they move Springs. And then they move up a lot and then they really get into the desert and the center of all of this wasteland where there's a whole bunch of nothing.
Love it.
So yeah, so they're doing that. They're exploring some. So yeah, I mean they honestly they do travel a lot between the episode and then in this episode because they are covering. Luckily they've got that sky bison with them, so they're able to cover.
For now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry.
We'll get it. It's so sad every time, and I'm like, I know it's fine. It's not a big deal, but it's fine.
No big deal. It's fine. I'm a grown woman. I won't cry. It's fine.
So yeah, they go to Misty Palms Oasis and then from there go into the middle of the desert to find Wan Shi Tong's library. And that's where the bulk of the episode takes place. Mm-hmm. So book 2, episode 10 is directed by Giancarlo Volpe and written by John O'Brien. And if you're just joining us, we will be discussing the show in its totality. So be warned about spoilers. And all right, let's see how quickly I can get through this point by point breakdown of the episode. So the gang starts off joking around, talking about each choosing their own vacation spot thing because they kind of need a break. They end up going to it's honestly really funny. The banter between them is it's super solid. So they go to Misty Palms because Aang is oh yeah, this place is supposed to be the best, and in the last 100 years it has become not the best. So they go there and it's just super rundown. But here they run into the head of anthropology at Ba Sing Se University,
which I love that little tidbit of knowledge, just that world building there.
It's so funny to think about Ba Sing Se having a head of anthropology at their university. It's just, I don't know. It's really cool. So they meet him and he's been trying to find Wan Shi Tong's library for his whole life. I also love in his line whenever he's talking about the library and he says knowledge is priceless instead of knowledge is power is a really cool thing. Because that's normally how people say that. They're knowledge is power. And he's not thinking about it in those terms, which I think is nice and definitely the more positive way.
Yeah. Because that does come back later. That's why we do see that at the end that comes back. He stays because.
Yeah. And it also goes into Wan Shi Tong's whole, everyone's just always trying to use knowledge to overpower people. And I don't like that, which is cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so he mentions that and gives some little exposition about Wan Shi Tong being the knowledge spirit and how he has his little knowledge gatherers, these foxes that go out and bring knowledge back to the library. And
he's got this assistants.
Yeah, which I love how they make it a joke and also are no, they're literally foxes too though.
They're literally foxes.
So he's got this library which is a spirit world library essentially, but he's brought it into the physical world, into the physical plane. So we get that they start to venture into the desert, not before though they see the desert riders just outside of Misty Palms and they go away before they go into the desert. They'll come back later though, unfortunately. So the gang ventures into the desert in search of the library and they're trying to find it. I love the little joke with Toph whenever she's look over there, there it is, and everyone looks and they're and then realize
I think it's the best joke in the whole show. I think this episode has the best blind jokes.
Oh, they're so good. It's hilarious. There's 3 or 4 of them in this episode.
It does. They're nonstop reminding you Toph is blind, by the way.
Yeah, it's so funny that like she's like, oh, over there, and they all, and even like as an audience member, you're like, oh, what did she see? And you're like, oh, right, she like didn't see anything. There's no, and she
It's so
does the
easy to
like hand
forget
like in front of her eyes. She's
the
like, I can't
hand.
see. um, so yeah, we get that, but then they eventually find that the library is buried because they see the top like spire thing, and they see one of the foxes travel into it. So they do that, and Toph is like, "Oh yeah, it's underground." She like feels it, and it's like it's underground, and it's pretty much like intact and massive. It's just all underneath the sand now.
Listen.
Um, so they all, well, everyone except for Toph and Appa, because Appa cannot fit through the little spire thing, and then Toph is like, "Well, I'm not a big fan of libraries because I can't read,"
Like, they don't do much for me.
which is great. I also love the like kind of, I don't know if this is a joke about like an audiobook or not, but like whenever she's like, let me know if they have anything that you can like listen to. I was like, oh, that's kind of
Yeah.
funny. Like because I listen to a lot of books. Um, but so I thought that was cool. And so Toph
You mentioned
and
it before.
Appa stay on the surface. Then they go in and delve into the library. They meet Wan Shitong pretty immediately. He like comes out and is like, "I know you're here, bro." Like he, who also is just a giant owl, like
He's
which is
terrifying.
awesome. He's so
He's
scary, but so cool.
scary. The
I love.
neck, this happens later, but the neck, I don't like.
Oh, when it
I don't
extends,
like
yeah, oh, it's gnarly.
Oh my god.
Um, I love him though. He's so great. I also love owls. I'm a big fan of owls, so like he's cool.
Sorry for
But
laughing
yeah,
at
being a
that.
typical
Owls
like
are cool.
avatar of wisdom, essentially, like
Yeah.
for in Greek mythology, and like with Athena, she has a pet owl. She's like the goddess of wisdom and all that. So carrying all that, like, yeah,
Yeah, like owls are always used as the symbol for wisdom, so it's very fitting.
yeah, it's nice. So yeah, they like come in and he's like, you need to get out essentially, because he's like, everyone who comes in here just wants to use the knowledge in here to overpower others and like destroy others. And I'm not a fan of that. Like, get out of my library. They end up convincing him to let them stay because they're like, we're not going to use any of the knowledge for that. And he's like, all right, well, you have to like you have to leave something here that's like some form of
Uh,
knowledge. And so like they end up each of the members of the gang like do something to like get by him kind of. I also love his line where he's like, if you're gonna lie to an all-knowing spirit being, you should put some effort into it, which is just
so good. Oh wait,
hilarious.
also he is voiced, I forget his name, Hector Elizondo, which
Hmm.
if anybody out here has watched Princess Diaries, he's the main security guard. And he's also
Okay,
in Pretty Woman as almost the same character.
interesting.
He's
I did
my
not know
favorite. He's
that.
so cute.
um,
Great
so yeah,
voice.
we get him doing that. I also love his description of himself when he said, "He who knows 10,000 things." Like, all right, bro, flex,
Only 10,000?
right?
Weak
Um,
numbers. I know
so
10,001 things.
right. So the gang starts to exploring. They obviously are looking for like some information to get a leg up on the Fire Nation. We also, at the beginning of the episode, it had another previously on thing, and like this is the
Mhm.
library that Zhao had gone to find out about the like water spirit and all of that stuff.
Callback.
Yeah, so it's
Thing is
great that they're like,
wasted.
yeah, they're wrapping things back in, or like tying things back together, which is super cool. But yeah, we learned that the Fire Nation destroyed everything about themselves in the library, so there's nothing that they can learn there. But then they stumble upon a planetarium, which is so sick.
So
Um,
sick.
and they find out that firebenders lose their bending during a solar eclipse, and they're like, oh, well, duh, like think about what happened to waterbending whenever we had a lunar eclipse, which is super cool.
Great world
And
building. Like, it just makes sense logically.
yeah,
Love
which I also think it's a super interesting thing about whether or not, and we'll get into it a little bit later because it's one of my points, but like the implications of celestial bodies like impacting
it.
bending and that kind of stuff, I think is really interesting. Um, but so they're like, oh yeah, now we can use this knowledge to destroy the firebenders. And Wan Shi Tong just immediately like shows up and is like, I knew you guys were up to no good.
Always.
And he gets super mad about it and starts to fight them. And yeah, that's when his neck like extends and he becomes a super big, like he is a monster essentially and is trying to attack them and
Yeah.
starts sinking the entire library like even further. So we
It's
then
so cool.
get
It
the like,
turns into like an Indiana Jones, Laura Croft type movie.
yeah,
It's
it
really
turns into
fun.
that for like a big part of it, and then there's like 20 seconds where it's also like a horror movie when
Oh,
Katara is like hiding from
yeah.
him for a second, which
That's
is
so
super
good.
cool. It's yeah, it's awesome. So it starts to sink. Toph on the surface is like trying to stop it from sinking. Sokka and Aang end up going back to the planetarium to find out when the next solar eclipse will be, so that they know when they need to stop the Fire Nation. Then on the surface, we have Desert Rider showing up and trying to capture Appa, while Toph is trying to keep the library from sinking so the gang can get out. So like as that's happening, she's not able to do both, and so Appa gets kidnapped and taken by the Desert Riders, and the gang ends up getting out. Like they get the information they need, and they make their way out. The anthropology dude ends up staying, surrounded by his books. He's like, "No, I can't leave," which like that's a vibe. Can't lie.
That's a vibe. Like, yeah.
But so he stays. The gang gets out. The library sinks completely under the surface, and they get out. And then Appa is gone. So that's pretty depressing and not very fun. But yeah, that's the rundown of the episode. What do you think about this episode? What are your thoughts? Is this? I know this is like a pretty huge episode. So like, what are you?
Big episode. This is a good like tonal shift too. This is like the first time. I mean, at the end, I think our next episode too that we'll talk about next week, the desert, that we really get some seriousness there from our characters that we're not used to. But this one is, we get a bit at the end, and it's good for kickstarting to our next arcs.
It's one of the rare instances where the episode ends on a major downer. Like normally the episodes end with like they did it and it's fine. Like they just got to go do more stuff now. But like this one is like, oh, you lost, kind of actually. Like
you lost.
They got the information they needed, but at what cost? I literally in my notes I was like, the gang gets out, but at what cost? And then parentheses put Appa. Appa was the cost.
I know. We get a lot about Toph too. Like we get to like see a lot about her. I think like her strength. She's lifting an entire library.
Yeah, she's keeping it from sinking. Like, and it's massive. It's a huge thing.
Huge. That's insane. But I like too that we get the little logic that she can't see in the sand. That it's all blurry. I like that too. That she's almost blind again a little bit.
Yeah, it's a lot more. Which I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's just like a lot messier and like not as structured as everything else. So like she's like, it's not. I can't see it as clearly. Yeah.
I think that's really cool. We got a lot of cool moments in this, like the odes. Like I said, the odes to almost like Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones. But there was one I think in the like they did an Avatar special, and they said it's an ode to Jurassic Park when they come down, and he's like, "We spared no expense." And then the chasing hiding scene is kind of similar to that when they're hiding.
Like the Velociraptors.
The Velociraptors.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Oh yeah, that's like definitely 100% what that is for a second.
Yeah, I was like, it's that.
Makes a lot of sense.
And then also they said that Washi Tong is supposed to resemble No Face from Spirited Away.
I was gonna say it literally like he has very like big I can picture the director. I can picture his name in my head, but I'm forgetting it. Yeah, he like has that vibe to him where it's like, oh yeah, like you definitely seem like a character from his films, like 100%. Especially whenever he like gets into attack mode. I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely
that's No Face. Yeah, like that. Yeah. That has these guys have seen anime. These guys have watched Ghibli films.
Yeah. Yeah, this is also a big episode in the fact that like I love the idea of there being this huge library of knowledge like in the universe where it's just like there's it'd be so cool for them to revisit this library at some point in the lore and like explore some of the other things that are in there and like
I think they come back in Korra.
Right. I think so. Well, right. I know they talk Wan Shi Tong comes back, I believe.
I think she goes back. One of the dogs. What's her name?
It's been too long since I've seen Korra. I can't.
Lie. I'm waiting to rewatch it when we revisit it again.
Because I don't want to like rewatch it now.
But I think she goes back and she sees sadly the skeleton of the professor.
Oh, the anthropologist. Yeah, right. Because he has like no food or water. Like, bro, did not live there for very long. Honestly,
living on knowledge. Love it though.
But yeah, there's just so much potential like in this library, and also just the idea of like a sacred library is like a very like
sick.
It's a huge trope, like staple, whatever in a lot of things. I feel like where it's like, oh, this vast reserve of knowledge, like it's like the Library of Alexandria type beat, like, and it's this ancient lost like thing that has all the knowledge you can possibly imagine, which I just think is super cool. Yeah.
and a great way to find out this information and to get us into our next arc about the eclipse. And it also gets our characters motivated to like get to Ba Sing Se, because so far
Mhm.
before this, we haven't really been motivated to get anywhere.
Yeah.
We
Which I
had, yeah,
still am not entirely sure. Like they're like, oh, now we need to get to Ba Sing Se. And in my head, I kind of was like,
it's like,
why
why?
though? Like, what?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know exactly why they're trying to go. I guess to like, the plan is to try to get the Earth Kingdom to like mount an offensive against the Fire Nation at
Mhm.
a particular date. And so they're like, oh, we need to go speak to the leaders. But I don't think that that's been explicitly said in the show thus far. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think they've been like, oh, yeah,
Until
we need.
now.
Yeah, but even now they're like not
They
saying
got to get
why
the
they need to.
information about the eclipse
Yeah, but they haven't said like why they need to go to Ba Sing Se. I don't think.
to tell them the information about the eclipse.
But hey, but they didn't like say that. Did they say that in this
They did
episode?
say that.
I just
Yes.
totally missed it. I thought that they just said like now we need to go to Ba Sing Se. I didn't hear them saying like to tell them
Well, like,
about it.
it was like right after they found it. So I was like, we got to get this information to Ba Sing Se.
Oh, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, he didn't even watch the episode, guys.
I did. I swear. I swear I did. I have notes that was
I
just
have
slipped on my nose.
notes.
It's fine. It's early.
It's okay. He who does not know 10,000 things, it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. I know
I
9,999
don't know.
things.
He has 999 things.
And the one that I did not know was that they had said that in the episode.
It was in the I also want to talk about the you just called it, what was it called?
Planetarium.
Yes, the planetarium. That is so
Mhm.
cool. I also like that they use like a Chinese calendar
Yeah.
instead. And
Well, I have to assume it's like a slightly modified one too, probably, because they
yeah.
probably like plugged in some of the symbols or
Mhm.
script or whatever from the like Avatar universe in there. But yeah, no, that was really cool to see them doing that, and like the dial and how it's like a physical. It's really cool seeing like a physical planetarium, like in that sense,
Mhm.
because they obviously like are not gonna have like a screen projector that's like
Yeah.
showing the things, right? It's
Shining
like
the stars. Yeah.
it's a very like tactile, like you can see the rings like moving around and kind of like how it all works. Which yeah, it's just awesome to see. I also love that like Sokka gets his moment to be really smart here too, and
Yes.
also like puts his foot down. And he's like, no, we like have to figure this out now. And Qatar's like, we'll figure it out later. And he's like, no, we won't. Like this
Yeah,
is
there's
the
no
chance.
other opportunity.
He's like, we will not get this information anywhere else. And so they go back, and then Aang being like, we can't search for like every single. We don't know when it could be. And he's like, well, we only need to figure it out before Sozin's comment, because after that we're kind of boned anyways.
You're kind of screwed. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great moment for him.
Yeah, like there's a lot of good stakes in this episode. This episode is very stressful. I can't
Yeah.
name a lot of Avatar episodes that are very stressful. I think this is where it actually starts getting. I think this is one of the first episodes where I was like, this is dark. Not dark, but this is like, there's been intense episodes, but this one is like almost upsetting, especially the next one.
You can feel this is when like the weight of the series I feel like starts to set in, and they even like it even comes in the like the previously on in this episode. Like this is the first previously on, I believe, maybe except for like the first episode this season, but like that goes back to like mentioning Sozin's comment and then like
Yes.
needing to do something by then, and like having to find that, and then you get of course the tie back with like Zhao in the library is like in the beginning, but it's the like this episode is when
Like, hey,
the
the main
series
plot, we're progressing.
yeah, like they've really now like buckled down in we have to get through like the main plot. Like it's now like the foot is completely on the gas, and like they just don't stop from here on out essentially. Like
Yeah.
I remember whenever I first watched the show, it took me a little bit to get through like book 1 and like the first half like to this point in book 2, and then like got to this episode and pretty much binged like the rest of the series after that. Like it was just like could not stop, because
Yeah,
you
this
just
is
get
the point too where you're like, I gotta find out what happens.
yeah, like you just, especially, yeah, like with the way that this episode ends and Appa being gone, you're like, oh no, well, like I got to figure out what happens now. Like Appa's gone. Like
Hey.
how is that going to happen? So yeah, like from here on out, they really just do not let up at all. And I know we've like been saying that, but I think that this episode, to your point, really is.
This is the actual one.
Yeah, like this is the turning point, I think, where it's like, okay, they really like have a, as we've been saying the last couple of weeks, the like first half of book 2, they feel like they don't necessarily have a like set goal, like a thing that they're
Yeah,
going
there's nothing
towards.
like
They're just
urgent right now until the comment.
Yeah, like we know the comment is kind of happening in the background, and like we know that that's a lingering threat and thing that they have to deal with. But besides that, in the episodes up until this point, there hasn't been like a clock that like there is that clock in the background, but not
Mhm,
like in the forefront that they're like, hey, this is the goal specifically that we're going to like
mhm.
and working towards right now.
Yeah, there's
It's
nothing
just been a
urgent right in front of their faces.
yeah, it's just been a more general, like they're doing, the different things. And it's been a lot of like character stuff and putting all the pieces in place and that kind of thing. And like now all of the pieces are very firmly in place. And it's like, all right,
Mm,
we gotta like, they're all now heading
yeah.
towards
We
this
have all of
singular.
our characters. They're all stapled in, like, who they are in this group. It's
Hmm.
all set. We're ready now.
Yeah, we've had
Move
like
to the end.
a couple
And
episodes of
this
the
is the
gang
exact
interacting.
midpoint.
Yeah, it is, I
Yeah.
believe. And like we've had a couple episodes of the gang being able to interact with like their new formation. Like we have Toph in there, and so there's been a few
Mhm.
episodes where like like that chemistry is all laid out. Like we've seen Azula and May and Ty Lee like a handful of times now. We know what their
Mhm.
deal is. Like we've seen where Zuko's path is going, like how his character is progressing, like all that stuff is like very solidified for the audience now, where it's like, okay, now we can like not rush to like the endpoint that they need to get to, but like there's nothing else that they really need to like set up now. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Like,
like the
now we can
pieces are in
start our
place.
descent.
Yeah, like now the
Mhm.
dominoes can start to like fall like in rapid succession, and like we get through that. And this episode very much like kicks
Mhm.
that off, and is also, yeah, again, it's just it's the first one, or one of the first ones where like they just straight up lose at the end. And it also like then is now a like like this is when we really get like, we've had multiple part episodes before, but like we now where it's like a multiple episode arcs, like where you don't really get a like satisfying conclusion to the episode like at the
Yeah.
end. That's like, not that like they do finish like the library excursion in this episode, like they needed to get into the library to get information, and like they get into the library and get information and get out successfully, but like it leaves a dangling, like a major dangling
Yes.
thread at the end of the episode still that like needs to get picked up in the next one, and like that will be a continuing trend as the series goes forward, which is not something the show had really done a whole lot previously. It was
Yeah,
more
because
like
it was
just a
like airing
loose.
a Nickelodeon. I think they had to do. They're like, it has to be a short episode that could just play randomly and somebody can just click onto.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
think
because you gotta.
they said this originally aired as two episodes together called The Fury of Aang. It was this
Mhm.
episode and the next one that we'll talk about next week, The Desert. They
Yeah,
aired all three of them, I think. The one after that as well. I think they all aired
interesting.
together.
That's wild, honestly, to like
Yeah.
get from a like a kid's cartoon on Nick to like have that kind of like, okay, like this is what we're doing for these 3 episodes, like
Special.
they should go out at once, is pretty wild. I can't imagine watching that on release, honestly. Like I'm so glad I didn't have to wait. I mean, obviously for these three they did it at the same time, but like generally I'm glad that whenever I got to this point in the show, I was like, oh, okay, I can just watch the rest of the show now. Like
Like,
I
thank
don't.
God. Oh,
Yeah.
imagine having to wait till next week.
Or
Oh,
imagine having to wait between books, like finishing book 2 and then having
oh,
to wait an off season. No thanks. Not a fan.
patience,
Not a fan.
patience. Um, but yes, I think we will come back and we're going to dive deeper and more into the episodes and how it contributes to the overall narrative of the series. We will be right back.
Welcome back to Bending the Narrative. Before the break, we broke down the episode The Library, and now we're discussing how this episode contributes to the overall series and story in the world of Avatar. Kate, let's start with you. How does this episode play into the larger story?
Well, like we were talking about, this is the exact midpoint of our show, and this sets our descent, I think, for the rest of it. So yeah, we get our setup for just like the next arcs, the next two arcs that are going to be our main focus point: losing Appa and the eclipse, which we want to
Hmm.
get to. What is it? They call it the day of the Black Sun, Day of the Black Sun,
Yeah.
which we will get to.
Hmm.
We get a lot of good, I think, world building too in this one. We learn about sand people, a cool new way.
Hmm.
It's almost kind of the jungle
It's,
people, but for the sand,
yeah,
for
it's the opposite of the
earthbending.
swamp people. Yeah.
Yeah, like the swamp people. Thank you. I
Hmm.
don't have words.
Jungle people.
The jungle
we don't
people.
go. We don't go to a jungle. It's fine.
I didn't go to a jungle. The swamp people.
Hmm.
Um, we get that for the Earthbenders, which I think is cool. They use sand in a very cool, different way.
Yeah, I do like whenever not that I like them stealing Appa, but like whenever they're getting Appa and like they use the sand to like anchor their feet to the ground. That was a cool, like
Yeah,
just little touch. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
almost like melt it,
Hmm.
become solid rock. I was like how they almost use it like water, and they bend it
Yeah,
in. They create a little tornado, and that's how they use their little boats.
their little
Cool
skids or
design.
whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
I also like their design is very cool. It reminds me of almost it's very like Dune or Star Wars esque.
Yeah, they look. I mean, they very much are similar to like the Tusken Raiders or to
Mm,
the oh my god, the people of Arrakis.
mm.
The Fremen. I was going to be so mad at myself if I could not remember their name. I was going to be
I was like,
furious. I love Dune, so like that would have been.
you're
Yeah,
so
no, they very much do feel like those kind of like they're the natural like people of the desert, and they very much like learned how to survive and like semi thrive like out there.
yeah,
Um,
that's
but
very
yeah, they
cool.
did.
And the desert is, I think, Siwang translates to something like death in
Oh,
Chinese.
that's fun.
So it's like the death desert.
Yeah, that's not ominous at all.
Not scary at all. Sounds
Yeah,
so fun. We should
it is.
go.
It is cool though. I like that they kind of they have the like Tusken Raider vibes, as in like
Mm,
because they like they want Appa to like be able to make a profit essentially, like which we'll find out later. But like that's like one of the main reasons, and so that it's very like Tusken Raider thing where they're like, oh, we're just gonna scavenge what we can in
yeah,
the like
sell it.
environment, yeah, to use. Um,
That is
yeah,
very
they're
cool. I also love
cool.
the little
They're
puck.
mean, but you
Oh
know,
man. But then we get them later. They realize the mistake that they made.
yeah,
He tries
so
to
that's good
lie to the Avatar.
growth.
We also get great Katara building moments here. I mean, we know who Katara is. We know her character, but I like that we
Hmm.
get to see in this episode and the next one. We really get to see her who she is in this group and what her secret strengths are. Almost like a strength we didn't know that she had. That she is the backbone of this group. She's the hope of this group. She keeps
Hmm.
like she's the only one with Aang at the end and his anger. You know,
Yeah,
we get to
yeah.
see that. But she's the one to keep a level head. She's like, let's not get too crazy.
Hmm.
She's like, we will find it. And when he yells at Toph, and she's like, okay, we don't need to do that. Poor
Yeah.
Toph. I love that Toph is
Oh,
like, I'm sorry, Appa.
I feel so bad for Tot. Yeah, whenever she's like, because she's trying her best to make it to where they can't get away with Appa, but she just like can't let the library sink either. And she's like, I can't do both. Like, I'm sorry, and like it just has to make that decision. Yeah, that's tough. That's like one of the toughest moments I think for a character like in the show.
Mhm.
Honestly, is her having to because like, she like can't let the library sink. Like if she lets go of that to save Appa, then like the whole gang is just trapped underneath there. Like that's like
Yeah.
game over. Like you don't
She can, yeah.
you can't. And so yeah, it's a very like impossible decision, and like she makes the right decision, but it's such a like emotionally damaging one still. Like she has to like deal with that and live, and also especially after she just spent like the whole episode bonding with Appa. Like I love the
Yeah.
shot of them where they're just like sitting down and like chilling like outside the like little like tower thing and like talking to each other, like well talking to each other. Appa's not talking obviously, but
Yeah.
like Top is just like talking to Appa. Like
He
she
does.
just spend more time like bonding with him, and then yeah, he just gets
She says
taken.
something like, seeing out here, it's all fuzzy. And he
Hmm.
like yells, and she's like, not
Grunts.
that there's anything wrong with fuzzy.
Yeah.
So cute.
um yeah, no, it's great, and there's some great moments between the two of them, and so yeah, her having to do that and like make that decision is a very tough thing.
It's like the first time we ever get to see her sad. Not sad.
Yeah, sad
No,
or
it's
like
just, like
lose also,
Yeah,
because
she
it's not
never
like because
loses.
like I mean she like technically lost the first time she like fights Aang, but like not really, like she just like didn't know that he
Yeah,
was gonna be doing that, and so like it's fine. It's not really like a loss, but like yeah, this is the first time where like she really experiences like she wasn't able to overcome the thing in front of her. Like she just couldn't do it. We don't really see that for her a lot because she's the best Earthbender of all time.
yeah, and she's
But
insane
like,
confidence, and that never breaks, and she's cocky, and this is the
mhm,
first time she's like, I fucked up, like I messed up, and
yeah, no, it's rough. It's rough stuff. I love the implication, like totally separate thing, but like the fact that Wan Shi Tong is just a knowledge spirit, and like the fact that they have that in this universe, I think is really cool.
Yeah,
It's
wait.
more of like we don't, because it's been a little bit. I mean, God, it's been like since the first book, really. Because I don't think we get into it at all in book two. But like the spirit world and stuff, like we haven't really touched on a lot of that
Mhm.
in a long time. And so it's like not that they like get super into it in this episode, but it is like another reminder that like, hey, there is this thing like the spirit realm that like the Avatar also like bridges gaps between. And like they even mentioned that in the show, like whenever Sokka's being grilled by Wan Shi Tong, and he's like, oh, this is the Avatar. He's like the bridge between us. Like talk to him.
Mhm.
And so like the idea that there is this like knowledge spirit and that like gets embodied in this being, I think is super super interesting. Like I'm a sucker for like that kind of trope or like stereotype or
Yeah.
whatever, the like super knowledgeable thing.
It's kind of
And
funny
so
because he's almost kind of stupid in this episode.
yeah, a little bit. Well, I
He
mean,
kind
like
of has his like moments.
he like lets him in though, because he's like, I know that they're gonna mess up, and like then I
Mhm.
could be mean about it. He's just like he's the typical like he's almost like Smaug in Lord of the
Mm,
Rings, where he's like hoarding his stuff. Like he's like a dragon, like hoarding gold. Like he's
yeah.
hoarding, except it's the knowledge that he wants to hoard. Like he's like, no, like everyone but me will use this incorrectly. Like, and he also views, so it's like a slightly different outlook than the anthropologist has, in the fact that like the anthropologist is like all knowledge is priceless and like wants to just like have the knowledge. And I think that they share a similar mindset in the sense that like Wan Shi Tong is like, well, knowledge in and of itself is the like end, like it's the means and the end. He's like, you should just be like satisfied with having the knowledge, and like I just want to have the knowledge. Is also similar to like Odin in Norse mythology, where like he's just
Ah,
obsessed with knowledge and like getting it at all costs. And it's like that's the like ultimate thing, is being able to have that, which I do think that it is kind of ironic and like paradoxical that they introduce like this knowledge spirit, but that he's supposed to be like the spirit of knowledge, right? But then he also has to like find knowledge and like get like, shouldn't he just like
know
have
it
the
all?
knowledge? Yeah, like shouldn't he just
Hey, good point.
like already like he's supposed to be the embodiment of knowledge itself? Shouldn't he just like
Know it?
not, yeah, shouldn't he not need this library? Like why is he hoarding all this shit? Like it should just be up there. But like, so I do think that's a little like bit of it. It's like it's what happens when you try, like when you mix the couple of different things, where like you've got like
Mm,
the whole like lost library thing, but then
yeah.
also like a spirit of knowledge and stuff. And so, and it also does like put like limitations on the character, which is something that you need to have, that way you can
You
have
can
like
have an all powerful.
powerful, yeah, like, and it makes it to where like his weakness is his like over like his hyperfixation on like keep like hoarding everything and keeping everything for
Mm,
himself, and like other people will misuse it and that kind of thing. And so like that is his like character flaw. And so like if it was just all up in his head no matter what, and he didn't need the library, then like you can't have that. But I do think that is a funny thing, that he's like the embodiment of knowledge, and is also still like needs all these scrolls and
he
stuff.
needs all these little foxes to get his knowledge, though.
Yeah, like
I
he's like, go
love
go.
the foxes too. They're like
Oh, the
little
foxes are
dogs, as
they're
if
so funny.
they're not hybrids. They're just foxes.
Yeah, which
And that's
also
pretty
he's not
cool.
a hybrid. He's just an
Oh
owl.
yeah,
I
he's
mean, he's
just
a
an
pretty
owl.
crazy owl when he like expands and stuff.
Yeah, he can move his neck in a weird. He can extend his neck in a weird way.
Yeah, but yeah, he is just a straight up owl. Like there's nothing else that he's a mix with, and the foxes are just normal foxes. I love when they're in the planetarium, and
He wants a tree.
Aang, yeah, he like wants a treat, but then also Aang is like, oh, read like whatever date it was from that thing that you took, Sokka, and he's like, stop, the fox is like with the owl, and the
Oh,
like fox gets all
no,
like cute, and he's like, no, man, I'm trying to help, like.
no.
It's
But then
like,
as soon as he leaves, the owl comes in. So he was right.
I mean, yeah, I also think though that like Wan Shi Chong was just
He was just
spying on them the whole time.
until he said that. I also
Yeah.
like that this was in the Avatar extras, but the little foxes, they're
Hmm.
designed after one of the Avatar staffers' dogs named Sophie.
That's not. Oh, that's cool. I don't know. I mean, I doubt that it was an intentional thing for the Avatar staffer when they were naming their dog, but like Sophie, like is like the root of philosophy is like love of, like Sophie means knowledge, like the root word for that like is, which
What?
I really like. I don't know if that would just be coincidence or not, but like I don't know if that's what the Avatar staffer was thinking of when they were naming their dog, but
Wait.
like that's what, like that's why you get philosophy as that. Like, yeah. So the root word there is the Greek translation for knowledge.
Wait,
So,
that's so cool.
so I don't know if
It
that's
could
just
all be, yeah.
a wild coincidence or not. But that's like works out super perfectly. Like,
Oh my God, that does.
either way, that's really cool though. Actually, I didn't know that.
Oh my God. I mean, knowing these writers, yeah. I think
Yeah, like that's true. Like I feel like that is something that like that writer like might have thought about when, but I don't know. That's crazy though. Either way, like that just
sure.
like ties them together perfectly. That's cool. So like the fox's name is actually knowledge. So that's cool.
How cute.
So that's a really cool fact, actually. That's awesome.
Fun fact that we
Love to
discovered.
hear it.
I don't know if they
Yeah,
put that out there.
that's cool.
And no Zuko and Iroh, but we do
No
get
Zuko,
Chow.
no Zuko, yeah, just in the previously on because he's a little piece
Mhm.
of shit.
But we do see that he's the one who burnt. It's implied that he's the one who burnt up the library. Also,
Yeah, all the stuff about the Fire Nation after he was there.
yeah,
Yeah, Wan Shitong is talking about he's like the dude who was here last time is a major asshole. Essentially, is what
it's
he
like,
said.
yeah,
And not in
here
those
he
words,
is.
obviously, but like he's like this guy sucked and destroyed everything, and then used it to like be a mean guy. It's like, yep, that's Chow.
In these next couple episodes, I feel the characters. I'm like, they want to curse so bad right
So
now.
bad, so bad. Yeah, it's so
Like when
funny.
Aang goes out, I'm like, I know he wants to say the F word so bad right
Oh,
now.
he just wants to scream. Yeah, he's holding it in. Yeah, so no Zuko and Iroh, no Azula or May and Ty
Mhm.
Lee, like no of anyone else. It's just the gang in this
Just
episode.
gang and new characters.
Yeah, which that's also only like 2 new characters, really. Like,
Really.
there's the
We
like
get a little bit of a tease.
yeah, and there's the like the extras and like Misty Palms. I love the dude who like cuts up the melon with his like
Yes,
swords. Why is bro using a whole like swords? He's using like short swords to like cut up the fruit. It's so funny.
I
Like
love it. I wonder if Zuko can do that too with his swords.
that's just like
Crazy.
bro's like playing Fruit Ninja in real life.
Fruit Ninja. I love that. It's like a little resort. Also, apparently that's in Avatar Extras. Something said this that I read. Don't know if it's true, but it's like a big glacier that like thousands of years ago, the desert used to be a
An ocean.
glacier, or like there's a glacier under the desert or something. And that's
Interesting.
the head of it peeking out in that.
Yeah, I was wondering about because you get the like ice thing like in the middle
Yeah,
that they use for their cups, which is also so funny. Like
so cute. It's so like campy resort. I love it.
and that'd be so like impractical though, to have like your cup would just be melting in your hands. Like, you imagine like trying to hold just
Ugh.
like an ice cup. Like, no thanks.
I
You
know some
need
places do that, like in Canada.
really.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
like
I guess if it's like cold enough
uh,
outside that you're fine. But like,
it's like you get like a drink in an ice cube
mm,
or something that you drink real quick. But
I mean, yeah, obviously, most drinks like that are like super. They're not big drinks, anyways. It's like 4 sips, but you know.
yeah, it's like that's cool. I bet they do that in the Avatar universe. I love it.
Yeah, but I do. It is super funny. Like whenever Aang is just in there, like he comes back and he's like sipping on like the drink while they're like talking to the anthropologists.
You're like, please be for real. Oh, I also love in the beginning too. This is another non-hybrid animal. Aang in the beginning is playing the flute, and the little groundhog things come up.
Oh, is it like a badger mole?
No, I think
It's a
they're
groundhog?
just what are they called? Timon and Pumbaa. Timon is one of them.
Oh, a meerkat.
Meerkat. I think they're just meerkats.
Interesting.
Right.
That's cool.
There's a lot of like non-hybrid
animal. It's so funny to me that like for half of the animals in this universe, we talked about it a long time ago when we did our like when we ran through like the list of all the like hybrid animals and stuff. But it's so funny to me how there's just like 50% hybrid animals in this universe and 50% are just like regular animals also. Like,
but like the bear, we get a bear later who's like the coolest thing about him is that he's just a bear.
Yeah, he's just a normal bear. It's so funny to me. I can't even call it lazy because it's not, because they also have like 75 different like hybrid animals that they've made.
Yeah.
But I just think it's really funny that they didn't like draw the line as in like, no, we're having exclusively hybrid animals in this universe. They're like, no, we'll have regular ones too. We just also get some hybrid ones.
Only when it calls for it.
Which I guess does like, you kind of do have to do that in order to do the hybrid animals also, because like how else are you getting the hybrid animal name
How
if you
else are
don't
you
have
knowing
like
it's a hybrid? Yeah.
if you don't have like the two things to put it together, then you would just have a different name for it. It wouldn't be like a lemur bat. Like it would just be a whatever new name. like, like just I
A
don't
lemur.
ask me to name a new creature. Like come on.
Don't ask me to on the spot here.
I'm not
I'm not the creators of the
what
show.
are those people called that like discover new species and name them? I'm sure I know there's a different name for like each
Scientists?
scientist. No, there's a specific scientist.
Scientists,
I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah.
I guess. Anthropologists, I guess. Yeah.
But
Study
anthropology
of
is normally
humans.
like land stuff or like
Yeah.
historicity type beat, as
Mm.
opposed to like a biologist, sort
Yeah.
of, I
You're a
guess, or like
biologist. Yeah.
yeah. 'Cause then something like
Leave
that.
a
I don't know.
comment. What's
I'm
that
not a
called?
scientist. Like,
I'm not, if you're listening to this and you know, let us know. We don't.
yeah. But no, there's a lot of awesome stuff in this
A
episode, and I think
lot of amazing things. Yeah.
it does a lot to like expand in very subtle ways, which the show we've talked about, it just like continues to do throughout all of its stuff. Like it just drops nice little tidbits in there that's like it makes the world feel more lived in and like
Mhm.
bigger
Like
and like
ancient too. I like that
yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, this world is ancient. It
Yeah,
is
I mean, they even get
over
it
like
with just the like 100 years between like Misty. It's like played as a joke because it's like, oh, Misty Palms is like in ruins now. But then you think about it, it's like, yeah, well, it's like over the course of 100 years, it's gonna change. Like, I
yeah.
mean, think about like how much is
What
a
was the joke?
city
He's
change.
like, they must have changed owners.
Yeah, which is so funny because that happens all the time. Like,
That's a
where
great
like an owner takes over a business or whatever, and it's just like completely different. You're like, oh yeah, this place sucks now. Like,
joke. Like, sorry.
yeah. But no,
They
yeah,
need
it does. And to your point, like the spirit library is a very much like, oh, I love the shot whenever Wan Shi-tong goes to like fly underneath and he just like flies like down and like continues to like
A
disappear.
spiral.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
you're like, man, there's a lot of stuff here. Like,
Yeah. And I do like the professor's choice to stay.
hmm
I think that's a very cute little tidbit. And it's a
hmm
great way to like to get the character so the character doesn't stay with them. A great way to write out the character.
yeah, it does so many things there. It's one, a great joke, two, a great practical thing to your point just now of like making it to where he's not hanging out with the gang still. Like we don't have to worry about him coming out when they discover that Appa's gone.
What was
But
it like
then
at the end of the Cave of Two Lovers when they come out and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna go this way.
yeah, right. Like, they're like, all right, bye. Like
Like, do
it's
you want to
like
come with
okay.
us? And they're like, nope. Okay.
But it does that. But it's also a really great just like mini arc for that character.
Hmm.
Like you get a full character arc for him within 20 minutes because like you meet him and he's like, oh yeah, this is my life's work that I've been going for. Like I've been searching for this for forever and trying to find it. And he then is like
Good.
he gets his payoff, like he finds it and he's like, no, I have to stay here. And also I love the shot of him like surrounded by the books and just like he's just cheesing, like he's like, no, I gotta stay here, like I'm gonna read my books. And Kasara's like, all right, we gotta go. Like
He's
she's
like,
like,
all right, leave him to
we
it.
can leave him, it's fine.
I
There's
feel
no
like that's a trope in another movie where he's like, no, leave me. Like, this is where I want to be. Is it like Atlantis or something?
I
Or
don't know, I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen that in
like an Indiana.
forever.
It's in an Indiana Jones movie, I think.
It's probably happened a couple of times.
Yeah,
I feel
it's
like
like a trope I've seen.
it might. I'm thinking of The Mummy, where the dude's like, "No,
Oh,
just leave me with the gold.
the
Like I
gold.
wanted." Yeah, he's like, "I can just stay in here. It's fine." I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't think you're fine though, actually."
My mom, you can't eat that. You can't live off of
uh,
that.
at
Can't
least
do
the
anything good
anthropologist, he
down
was
here.
like super dedicated to his craft and like gets to learn a lot before he dies. And like, what, 3 weeks? Is how long you can
Yeah.
survive without
Yeah.
food or whatever. It's like two or
Maybe
three
the
weeks.
little foxes bring him food. Because how are the foxes eat? Well, how are they going
I
to get
mean,
out then?
I was about to say they're all like completely underground now. I don't.
But I guess they're spirits. But now that they're in the real world, ooh, we're getting onto something here. It's like now that they're in the real world, they have to eat, right? Is that what happens with spirits when they?
I don't know. Does Wan Shi Tong have a diet? What does this bro snack on?
Good question.
Does he need sustenance,
Does he
even
need
though
to
he's in the
eat?
material plane?
Do spirits need to eat? Chat, let us know.
Have
do
you
you
seen the
think?
thing? This is a totally like separate thing, but the fact that like people talk about theories as the fact that like chat is a like person now that
Wait, I love
like
that.
like culturally we just say like
We
chat
created a person
as
chat.
like as
Let
like
me know.
like oh chat let me know or like there's this like
Oh, that's
whatever
fair
chat.
enough.
It's just there's it's a really weird rabbit hole that you can get down with that, but like it's a funny thing.
That's so great. Well, I love
Um,
so many things to say about this episode that we're now talking about chat character.
yeah, I don't know if Wan Shi Tong needs to eat though. I have to assume not.
It's a good question. I also love too. The professor said something about he's found other ancient civilizations, and I wonder what those are. Like, I wonder if
Mm,
he's found, like, he also wasn't surprised when he saw Aang. He was like, oh, you're an air nomad.
yeah, and he wasn't shocked at all.
He
I
wasn't
love how
shocked.
he calls him a relic, and Aang's like, "Thank you."
Yeah, true. So cute. Thank you.
um,
Relic.
yeah, I don't know. That'd be a cool thing for them to explore more at some point. Is like other potential lost civilizations, maybe in that Avatar game that we're gonna get in like 5 years.
Wait, that's right.
That's set like I don't remember how many years they said it's set before like the show. I think they said like 7,000 or something like that,
Yeah, a
which is
big number. It's very
which is
early.
crazy. I don't remember how far in the past Juan is. That's his name, correct? The
Wang
first
Shitong.
Avatar? No.
Oh, I was like Wang Shitong.
No, like
I
isn't it Juan?
have no
Isn't
idea.
he
I don't know
also
the
the
first
first
one.
Avatar?
Oh, because
Because isn't that
no,
like 10,000 years in the past?
Re and ooh, I'm forgetting. Wow.
Yeah, it's Juan. I was correct.
Wow. We don't deserve this
Now,
podcast.
producer came in clutch
Wow.
and confirmed me that the first Avatar's name was Juan. I knew it.
Okay.
I got stuff up here. Um, uh, but yeah, I think that's like 10,000 years in the past. I want to say.
Oh, that's sick.
I don't know if they actually ever say that though. I might just be making that up because it's a nice round number that sounds like it's really far away.
That's a good number.
But yeah, that Avatar game will be cool though when we get it. I don't anticipate that game for at least like 4 years though.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
it's gonna be a while.
Um.
Playthrough
Uh.
though.
Whoa. Wait. What? Sorry. I have to look at this chat because we just got
Oh, oh,
Isabella Bocher, creative executive
yeah.
for Avatar Studios, expressed the belief that Zay did not starve to death in Wan Shi Tong's library, but was supplied with food by the knowledge seekers until his eventual death. So bro just died of old age.
Okay, love it. He died
Wow,
of
that's
old age.
awesome. Love that for him. He just got to read his little books for the rest of his life.
So cute. I like that the
That's
knowledge
awesome.
seekers were bringing him
Brought him food.
food.
Yeah, because they were like, "You're cool. Like
Like,
you get to hang
cool.
out."
That's so
I
cute.
want a bottle episode that is just conversations between him and Wan Shi Tong. That would be so great.
Wait, that would. And all like the
Just a little
knowledge
like
and
just do
history.
it like just do it as a straight like an online like exclusive like released episode, just a little just get like a 10-15 minute episode that's just them like kicking it, just like talking
Just
about
kicking
different.
it.
Well,
Just
because then you could have like,
theories.
oh no, it could be a full like 20-minute episode because you could do like conversations with them and then also them talking about like other stuff that's happened in the Avatar universe, where it's like, oh yeah,
Ooh.
like in this one scroll or whatever, like this happened and like,
It
oh
could be
come
like,
on,
those
we're
recap
cooking.
episodes?
Yeah, where they do like a bunch of flashbacks in them, where it's like the people just in like a room and they're talking about stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Like
Hmm.
before the last season comes out or something, they do that. It's like that would have been good for that.
That'd be cool. Get on it, Avatar Studios.
Get on
Give us
it.
give us
Get
that
on
bottle
it.
episode.
Virus. Duh.
Yeah,
All right. Anything else we want to say about this episode?
I don't think so. I think those are all the
You
things.
said plenty. Yes. Yeah, love this episode. Good episode.
Mhm.
Obviously. Don't think we've had a bad episode. Don't think we
That's true.
will,
Very accurate.
which is why we're talking about this show in depth. All right.
Mhm.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for tuning in to Bending the Narrative this week. Next week, we will experience life without Appa
Pain.
in the desert. First, Alex, where can people find you online?
You can find me online at the Alex Batts. That's BATTS on both Twitter and Instagram.
2 T's, don't forget it. You could find
Yeah.
me online at Kate the Official on Instagram.
Awesome. And please be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect on YouTube and any platform where podcasts can be found. Please give us a like, leave a comment, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode. You can also follow us on Twitter/X, Instagram, and TikTok at The Aspect Co. A huge thank you to Peter Fraser for providing our series music. Thank you so much for listening.
And Flameo Hot Man.
Hey, thank you for tuning in.
If you enjoyed this show, then be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect so you never miss an episode.
And be sure to check out some of our other shows and videos on the Aspect Network.
Thank you so much for listening, and Flameo Hot Man.